Hi, friends. Usually we do something kind of fun, but instead we're going to do something a bit different. This episode, we're going to be talking about Doki Doki Literature Club. We're going to get into major spoilers, and actually the game description itself is kind of a spoiler. So if you don't want to be spoiled at all, skip or go play the game and come back and listen to this episode. And then the second thing that we wanted to mention is that this game does have quite a bit of intense content. So if you suffer from severe anxiety or depression, that is something that this game goes into and discusses. And so if that is something that you don't want to listen to, go ahead and skip this episode. Okay.
Hi y'all, I'm Bridget.
And I'm Maddie. Welcome to Baddy Breakdowns, where we break down various games, hang out, have fun, and help you find new games to play. Today we're going to talk about Doki Doki Literature Club. We're going to start with sharing a short description of the game, talk a little bit about how it's made, who made it, and its critical reception. Then in the second half, we're going to deep dive on the game and its 3 acts and our experience while playing it, closing with if we recommend it, who we recommend it to, and our personal rating for the game. With that, let's date some anime girls.
Amazing. All right.
Game description.
If you haven't actually played this yet, this is a visual novel and kind of a dating simulator. It mimics a dating simulator. And one of the most interesting parts of it is that it has some experimental elements and gameplay as a part of it that creeps itself into the psychological horror genre. So it's a very interesting game, and it mixes a lot of different genres together, and overall is an experience.
It's definitely an experience. I am actually really excited to talk to you about it because no, we'll get into it.
We'll get into it. I guess a little bit of extra info on just the premise of the game. It's like I said, a visual novel. You play as a high schooler where your best friend has begged you to join this literature club that she's the vice president of. And so, of course, the club is full of very cute, dateable girls, and you are there to date all of them.
Yep.
And with that, Maddie, would you like to tell us a little bit about how it's made, critical reception, all that fun stuff?
Yeah. So Doki Doki was created by the studio Team Salvato. I think that's how you pronounce his last name.
Yeah, I couldn't tell.
Okay. The founder and the writer for the game and main kind of creative director is named Dan Salvato. And Dan was originally, I found this and I thought it was really interesting. He's originally a professional Smash player.
Oh.
Super Smash Brothers player.
Cool.
And he was famously known as being one of the best Link players in the world.
Oh.
So you know how you can play all the different characters. So Link specifically was his character.
I'm trying to imagine that dude writing this game. I don't know how to put those together in my head just yet.
I just thought it was really fascinating as I was looking him up. He was inspired to create Doki Doki by his love-hate relationship of anime in general.
Okay.
And in particular, anime girls and the tropes that go along with them.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of about how they're pretty unrealistic. But then I also found a quote from him that I thought was rather interesting, where he was like, I'm not here to hate on it, because if this type of experience provides someone comfort, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, then all the more power to him. I think he was just kind of commenting on how he looks at anime girls and how it's very unrealistic to real life women. And
I mean, that's how I feel too.
Yeah, 100%. Yes.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I thought was interesting is that he was only 25 when it was released.
Oh.
So he's rather young.
Huh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He's not that much older than us.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I'm definitely still in
It was
my 20s
released in
for a really long time.
2017, so if I math that in my head badly, he's probably like mid-30s right now.
Oh, okay.
So he's like fairly young.
Wait, that's 5 years. He would be like 30. He's 30.
Well, we're 28, so.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Critical reception was really good. It has a 78 on Metacritic with Doki Doki Plus. There's a plus version getting an 87. It has a user score of 8.5 out of 10. So Steam reviews are overwhelmingly positive. And I have some funny reviews that I picked that I wanted to share. So this one that I thought was really hilarious, actually context. It's free to play on Steam. You could just download it for free.
I feel like I bought it. Did I not pay
You
money
bought
for it?
Plus, probably.
I played the normal version, but I've had this game in my library for forever.
Oh, see, it went free more
so maybe
recently.
I bought it before it went free.
I just downloaded it. I didn't have to buy it.
Okay.
So it is free on Steam, but then the funny review is this game isn't actually free. You just pay money later for a therapist. I thought that was great. And the other one that I thought was really funny was left me feeling empty, 9 out of 10.
I agree with that review.
Okay, I have 2 more. I'm not okie dokie after playing Doki Doki. And then the last one, so far, a pretty good game. I'd say my favorite girl is Sayori. I confess my love to her. Can't wait to see what happens next.
Oh, no.
10 out of 10.
No, that one just hurts me physically.
So those are all the great reviews. Okay, so let's get into the game.
Yeah, I'm ready. I am excited and ready to do this. And
Okay.
also horrified. Do we want to start with first impressions?
Yeah, go for it.
So my first impression for this game was a little colored, I think, by the previous dating sim that we played, Dream Daddy.
Were you spoiled at all? Because I wasn't.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
All.
The only level of spoilage I had was I knew that it was more than a dating sim or a weird dating sim. I knew that there was a thing that happened, but that was all I knew. And I didn't know the context.
Same.
I actually didn't even go to the Steam page to like read about it beforehand. I have a really bad habit of not like actually reading descriptions of games that I know I'm just going to play.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was not spoiled. And so getting into it, first, they have a giant screen that's like, this is disturbing content. Get ready. And you're just like, okay. And I have no context on what is disturbing. I just know that I'm apparently about to be disturbed.
That's exactly what I have as my first impression, is they say it like 5 times.
So many times.
They have content warning, specifically saying it is not for kids or people easily disturbed.
Yeah, and I'm like, I sometimes am easily disturbed. But I think just generally the first impression, I'm going to base it off of maybe like the first 20-ish minutes of the game, just like getting into it. I think the very first piece was like, oh, I'm a boy and I don't like myself. I hated myself. We can talk more about that later. I fucking sucked. And then my second thought was, why does Yuri not have arms? And all I had in my head was like, this is weird. I don't really like myself. I don't really like the girls. And I'm a little bit bored. So that's like my first impression. And I hate and love that I'm saying that because the game is so fucking weird that I don't think that at all is representative of, you know, like the experience I had. But that's how I felt.
Okay.
And you're making a face.
I'm making a face because literally what I have is the same shit. I seem like an incel. That's the first thing I wrote, is I seem like an incel. Dang, I'm a boy, sad face.
I sound like a boy, ... Okay, I am a boy. I have decided I am instead a hot girl and like the rest of them.
Well, because
so
they also
like
asked for your name, and so I gave them my name.
Right, I was Bridget.
Maddie.
Yeah.
I just have the exact same shit, and I was so bored. I was so bored.
Yeah, I was bored.
I hated it, honestly.
That's why I had texted you. So on Steam, you can see what your friends have played, and I saw that you had played like about 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, I had played into Act 2. And so I knew that a lot of stuff had happened and was different, but you did not hit it by 2 hours.
No.
And so that's why I texted you, because I was like, hey, Oh my God. Because I wanted you to know that there was more, and I was afraid that you would have stopped because I was so
I
bored
was
I
not
almost
stopping.
stopped. Okay.
The reason I didn't stop is because of this podcast.
Okay,
though.
yeah. I would have stopped if I didn't have the podcast. I didn't want to quit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just funny that we had the same thoughts about, like, not wanting to be a boy.
Right?
And also thinking as an incel. And the other thing I had is, what's a neat?
Oh, yeah, they did mention that a couple times.
Oh, should I Google that really quick?
Yeah.
Are we going to regret it?
Maybe. For the folks who don't understand, I want to give context to the, like, why we said he sounded kind of like an incel. He was constantly, through the beginning of this game, making really rude comments about the girls that he was talking to. We'll get more into the actual story of things, but, like, he uses a lot of really weird verbiage that bothered me. Also says a lot of really rude things about the women in general, constantly commenting on their bodies and on, like, how hot they were, but how bored he was and how he was only going to stay for the women. It made me feel grody.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I said something, I was like, why does he do the things that he does? Why does he think this way? I hate myself.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad.
So let me just give, like, a little summary of the first act in a way.
Yeah.
So the first thing that happens is you meet with Sayori, who's your neighbor and lifelong friend, and she's like, hey, like, let's walk to school together. And she calls you a NEET, which is not an education, employment, or training, which is another way of saying someone who is a shut-in.
Oh,
it's
like
kind of
introvert.
like slang for shut-in,
Gotcha.
introvert, or whatever.
Okay.
And then the whole thing is that she's convincing you, the guy, MC, I guess, the main character, to join a club that she is the vice president of called the Doki Doki Literature Club. Or is it just the Literature Club?
I think it's just the Literature Club, and they, like, Doki Doki is just part of the
is part of the title. Okay.
Yeah.
So she asks you to join the Literature Club, and you kind of get forced into it, or you agree to go because she mentions that there's other girls in the club, and then
she does trick you. So I'm pretty sure she says, well, don't you want to join my club? And you're like, no, I don't want to join the club. And then, you think it's boring, you want to go to anime club, and she's like, but we made cupcakes for you. And he's like, well, now I have to come because you made cupcakes. And so he goes. So she kind of tricked him into going.
So let's get into the Literature Club. So you do a day of school, but not really. Like, it just says time passes and you go to school. And then after school, you go to the Literature Club. And that's where you meet the rest of the main characters of the game. So you meet Monica, who is the president of the club. She kind of looks like Blossom from the Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah, she's like athletic and sexy and confident.
Popular, long, kind of brown, reddish hair. You meet Natsuki, who is the very cute, tiny, pink hair, but mean girl.
She has the complex of being, like, the feisty little one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you meet Yuri, who is the timid one with long black hair.
Womanly body. Stupid.
Yeah. And she does always have her arms behind her back for the most part of the game.
They literally didn't draw her arms. Well, yeah.
So it's like chest out, if y'all can imagine what that is. So it's 4 anime girls, very classically anime girls.
Yeah.
And
little skirts, like, moving all over the place. It is.
Yeah. And that honestly did put me off.
Oh, I was so put off. I was upset.
Yeah.
And hearing actually your earlier intro, I didn't know that he wrote this game with the context of not liking the tropes, because when I was getting into the game, I was like, oh my God, like, of course it's all these tropes, but it's kind of interesting to me that he literally wrote it to be like, ha, 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 you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of purposefully making commentary on each of those tropes, right? Because each of them represents, like, a different type of anime girl.
Yeah.
So then at the end of the first meeting, there's a poem writing piece in the first act. So you learn that Yuri and Natsuki both like writing poems, and to encourage them to share their poems, Monica says, hey, why doesn't everyone write a poem, and tomorrow we'll share them with everyone else.
Right.
So the Act 1 gameplay kind of thing is you're writing poems.
I'd love to emphasize here that when Maddie says gameplay being the poem writing, that is literally the gameplay. Up for the first section of the game, you are clicking and reading dialogue prompts. It is very much so a visual novel. And then you get to the poem writing, and that's the first time I think you actually interact with the game to give yourself input, is during the poem writing portion. So it's very much so you're clicking. And I think that's why I felt bored, is because so many times during the intro, it said a thing that made me think I could make a choice. And then the dude that I hated, that was myself, made a choice I didn't like. And then I had to keep going.
Yeah. There's almost no choices that you make, which we'll get into. So you go into the poem writing gameplay, quote unquote, and it's 20 pages. And how you write a poem is you select not a random, but there's a selection of words on the page, and you select a word for each of the 20 pages, and then that is kind of the poem that you write.
Right.
And at first, I didn't really know what the poem was doing. And I wish I could have seen the output of it, I guess.
Yeah, I wanted to see the output.
But you don't really get to see the output. You just click a bunch of words until you get to the end of the 20 words. And then you go back to Literature Club. And then you share your poem with each person. And each person will give a reaction to the poem that you write. And in turn, they share their poem with you.
Yeah. And the reaction that you get is based on the words that you pick, which wasn't super clear.
It wasn't clear. I only figured that out in the second act.
Yeah. Oh, really? That far?
That's how bored I was. I wasn't paying attention. There's a tell in the poem writing. I literally got so bored in the first act that I was just clicking like crazy, the same word position. I wasn't even paying attention to the word I was clicking. I thought maybe the disturbing content is because sometimes the word choices that you can select were disturbing. So you can pick like death, suicide, depression, melancholy, agony,
lonely.
You know, so I thought, okay, this is the quote unquote disturbing content, which is not what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Boy, does that change. Yeah, so I didn't notice, but when you click on a word that a particular girl likes, in the bottom left corner, there's a little sticker of each of the girls.
Chibi?
Yeah, a little chibi. Chibi. Yeah, exactly. A little chibi of each of the girls, and when you click on a word that they would like more, they do a little hop.
Yeah, the little hop. Yeah. And see, the very first time I noticed that ish. But I was so obsessed with, I love writing poetry. I actually think it's really fun. And so when they're like, write a poem, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to write a poem. And so I actually start off trying to write a poem. And the words they give you are the same set of words, but they're like randomized. So you get different ones on different pages. And you can't make sentences with these things. You just can't. And so I
thought we were doing like a Mad Libs thing.
Oh, yeah. See, that's what I eventually thought we were doing, was like Mad Libs. And so I was trying to pick words that grouped together, wrote a poem that I thought felt good. And then obviously that wasn't what it was, but I was really bummed out because I was over here trying to be like, okay, we're going to talk about dreaming in bed and feeling differently and all this kind of stuff. And so I was trying to put this intricate thing together, and really all it was were these little chibis hopping up and down because they liked that I picked the word dream instead of the word agony.
Yeah, I tried to do the same thing on the first one, and I thought at the end I was going to get a Mad Libs-like poem.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to make it make sense as well, and then they don't even share it with you, and then you just read their poems.
Most of which I don't know. We'll talk about that. They were okay.
And then that happens another time.
Yeah.
So you do the literature club, you share your poem, you read their poems, and then you do it again.
I think you end up writing 3 poems.
You write 3
for Act 1.
For Act 1.
Yeah.
And I believe it was in this one that you find out that what we're kind of building up to is a school event where people get to talk about... Oh, yes, festival. Where people talk about the clubs that they're in. And then Monica's idea is, let's all share our poetry at the festival to convince people to join the literature club.
I feel like we should maybe dig into the girls and what we thought of them.
Yeah.
Do you want to start? You want me to start?
Go for it.
Okay. Like Maddie said, there are 4 girls, and one of which is your best friend, a couple that you kind of get to know, Yuri and Natsuki, and then one that's the president of the club that for some reason you can't like woo her
Mm-hmm.
with the poems and stuff. And so it's a really interesting interaction. So again, I was upset about how they had framed all these characters.
Yeah.
I was very upset.
Yeah.
And so I did actually have a ranking. I decided to pick a ranking at the end of the first day. And I said, Natsuki was my first one.
Oh.
And again, I love the pink hair. And she was a little saucy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I can dig with the sauce. I like that. I think that's fun.
Yeah.
And mostly I was trying to balance all the negatives for the things that I didn't like about everyone. And I was like, she has pink hair and she's a little spicy. So I like it. Monica was my second one because she seemed really nice, but you didn't really get a chance to talk to her much.
No.
And so I couldn't put her in number 1 because I just didn't really know much about her. Sayori I had third, which is your best friend person. The reason I had her so low at that point is because she was so much. She just had a really big personality that I think was so much energy, it was draining. And it bothered me how much they made her out to be like incompetent and an airhead. And so Yuri, she made the third list, but Yuri was my fourth one. And she was really quiet and shy. And the reason that I put her fourth is I put boobs. Boobs.
She's like the very classic, like shy, big titty anime girl.
I hated it. I was so mad because I was like, why didn't they even draw her arms? Why did she use such big words and pretend like she's better than everybody else? Why is all this
so
happening?
Funny to sound like Nancy.
I was so mad. I do, and I did comment on that later.
Yeah. I have a general ranking. So I actually had Monica as my first because I thought,
I can see that.
Okay, I'm going to go for the president popular girl if I have to go for anyone. And she seemed the most normal, to be honest. And then I had Sayori. And then I had Yuri. And then I had Natsuki. So I thought it was funny. The reason I had Natsuki so low is that she really dogged on my first poem.
Oh, see, she loved mine because I picked words for her.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah. The first one, I wasn't trying to just click through the first one. Like, I actually tried on the first one, but it ended up that Sayori really liked my first one.
Okay.
And Yuri thought it was okay, and Natsuki was like, you didn't even try. She literally said that.
I did end up replaying to get every single girl's preference and do all of their cutscenes and stuff. But at the beginning, somehow magically, my poem ended up being hers because I wasn't trying to do that either. Yeah. And she's really nice about it in like a funny way. She was grumpy that she couldn't be the one who's better at writing poems. So it was like funny.
Oh, that
and
is
cute.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't remember the exact words that she said, but it was something along the lines of like, humph. And then she's just quiet for a second and you're like, what? And she's like, well, I thought I was going to be the best one at writing poems here, but then you come and you're like good at it and I don't know what to say. And it's really funny. Yeah. I liked it. But you're right. It's a different experience when she's sassy and not liking it because she's just not nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then she was just last for me. But like, honestly, I wasn't pulled to any of them, like with Dream Daddy, right?
Yeah. No, I didn't like any of them.
No. No.
Did you ever in the first act find someone you ended up liking? Because I did. I'm curious if you did.
I mean, I liked Sayori.
Okay.
I ended up like being in... I ended up going her storyline, I guess. Or as much as you can go.
Yeah.
And then I did... Let's get into the second poem thing.
Yeah,
or like right
poem.
Before the festival.
Yeah.
Because there's a decision point where after you write the third poem or the second poem or something, they're like, okay, now this weekend we're going to prepare for the festival. MC, Bridget, Maddie, pick who you want to help over the weekend. And who did you pick?
So at the time, I was really peeved with Natsuki because she just kept getting more and more mean annoying than funny, cute mean. And so I had actually pivoted to Sayori's story. I had written 2 poems for Natsuki and then just written one for Sayori. So I had picked Sayori. They wouldn't let me pick her. And so then I picked Monica and they wouldn't let me pick her. And so then I picked Natsuki because I hadn't talked to Yuri yet, and I had a grudge. And so my third choice, I got Natsuki, which is whatever.
Yeah, I did almost the same thing where I picked Monica first, then I picked Sayori, and then I picked Yuri.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before we do that piece of it, I did have one note about the poem writing.
Mm-hmm.
That was what I was really feeling like dropping off.
Yeah.
Because it's very text heavy, the text I don't like,
to
your point. But I just wanted to mention that before we go into the next part.
Yeah, I think mine kind of bridges into the next part a little bit, and that the only poem part that I actually really liked and enjoyed was the reason that I swapped to Sayori's line is because her poem, I think it was called Bottle Caps. I actually loved that poem. I was like, what a beautiful and deep and pretty poem.
I genuinely thought the poems they wrote were actually pretty good.
I didn't like Natsuki's. They were boring. I didn't Yuri's, I have a thing for if you use a lot of big words so much so that it hurts me to like sit there and try to figure out what you're trying to say. I'm over it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't like theirs, and Sayori's first one was okay, but her second one was so good. And I was like, wow, I love this. And that's why I swapped over to her, because at that point, I had spent some time thinking about how I related to these characters because I didn't like any of them. And finally, I was like, oh, this is actually really recognizable. And then once I got over the fact that they were being really kind of rude about how dumb and useless Sayori was a lot of the time, because the main character is really like mean about how he described her. I made a joke and I actually put it in my thing. I was like, am I Sayori? Because like Sayori oversleeps all the time. Sayori has a messy ass room. Sayori writes these really dark poems even though she's a really bubbly person. And I'm like, you know what? I love her because I think we're the same. And so that was the only poetry piece that really made me feel engaged, I think.
Yeah.
And after that, I got more engaged with the game because I liked her more and I was willing to play it out for her.
Yeah.
And so I was peeved when I got stuck with Natsuki over the weekend because I was like, I do not want to hang out with her right now.
Yeah.
No.
I will also say that I ended up liking Sayori the most as well because she did seem more deep. Do you want me to? I pulled up the poem.
Do it.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, do it. It's really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I pop off my scalp like the lid of a cookie jar. It's the secret place where I keep all my dreams. Little balls of sunshine all rubbing together like a bundle of kittens. I reach inside with my thumb and forefinger and pluck one out. It's warm and tingly, but there's no time to waste. I put it in a bottle to keep it safe, and I put the bottle on the shelf with all of the other bottles. Happy thoughts, happy thoughts, happy thoughts in a bottle, all in a row. My collection makes me lots of friends. Each bottle is starlight to make amends. Sometimes my friend feels a certain way. Down comes a bottle to save the day. Night after night, more dreams. Friend after friend, more bottles. Deeper and deeper, my fingers go. Like exploring a dark cave, discovering the secrets hiding in the nooks and crannies. Digging and digging, scraping and scraping. I blow dust off my bottle caps. It doesn't feel like time elapsed. My empty shelf could use some more. My friends look through my locked front door. Finally, all done, I open up, and in come my friends. In they come in such a hurry. Do they want my bottles that much? I frantically pull them from the shelf, one after the other, holding them out to each and every friend, each and every bottle. But every time I let one go, it shatters against the tile beneath my feet. Happy thoughts, happy thoughts. They were supposed to be for my friends who aren't smiling. They're all shouting and pleading, something. But all I hear is echo, echo, echo inside my head. Damn.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And when I read that, I was like, this girl is feeling something and I'm on a wavelength with her and I just need to be here. So I got way more engaged after that poem. It's beautiful. It's really good.
Yeah. That is a nice one.
It is. Ugh.
Cool. So let's talk about, because I did Yuri and you did Natsuki. So let's talk about the over the weekend thing. So over the weekend happens, you're supposed to help whichever girl that you pick, Yuri or Natsuki. And the beginning of it is you actually go check on Sayori.
Right. Yeah.
So you notice on the last day before the weekend that Sayori's acting a bit odd and out of character for her. And she also just gave you that poem that I just read. And you're like, something's wrong. Mm-hmm. So you go visit her. And then do you want to share?
Yeah. So I'm going to try not to cry. I cried while this was happening. It was very sad. So Sayori is in her room, and like usual, she is trying to be her positive self, doing nervous laughter. And what she tells you is that, she's severely depressed. I actually hate the main character in this moment so much because he does that thing where he's like, how could you not tell me? Or I feel betrayed by never being told. And I literally wrote
the opposite of what you're supposed to do.
Right. And it's like, you know how hard it probably was for her to go through this. And then you're going to comment about how you feel betrayed right now. Please, sir, get a life. And so she's talking through this. And the reason that I cried and felt so emotional about it is because, I struggled a lot in school. And I think that they portrayed her character and her struggle really, really accurately, at least how I kind of lived my life in high school. And I think the poem that Maddie read really lends itself to how she was feeling of, I feel so bad and so dark. And she refers to them as rain clouds, these little rain clouds that don't feel good. And she wants everyone else to never feel like the way that she feels. And so she's happy and she's bubbly all the time, and she does that because she wants other people to feel good because she feels so bad. I'm like tearing up. It's so sad. And so she comes out and tells you all this, and you have this little heart-to-heart with her where you're like, I'm going to do whatever I can to make you happy, but then you have to leave to go on your quote-unquote date.
Dumb thing.
Yeah, stupid thing that I didn't want to leave. And to go, and you invite her, but she's like, no, I don't want to go. And which I get. I wouldn't want to go either. And she's dropping these hints through these conversations about how she feels dumb and stupid about very clearly liking the main character and wanting him to be with other people because she's been selfish and inviting and forcing you to join this club and then wanting you to make friends, but then feeling guilty and bad because you want to maybe be with somebody else and not her. And it's really hard to watch, especially if you are somebody who struggled with feelings like that in the past. And I know, like, I was sobbing. I was just sitting on the couch playing this game and, like, sobbing. And I was like, this is too real. And, like, I understand why they're like, if you get easily disturbed, I'm like, I am disturbed.
Yeah. Oh, no.
But, yeah. So, and then you go on your date. But I don't know, Maddie, what are your kind of thoughts with that?
No, I thought it also, so I don't personally struggle from depression, but I have, like, family members that do. And so I thought it portrayed that really, really well.
Yeah, it did.
I, again, hated the way I had to say my dialogue. Like, it was like all the things that you're not supposed to do.
It was so bad.
It was so bad. It's making it about yourself. And then...
And, like, she didn't need to feel worse. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can't say the right things to her, which I think was purposeful, probably.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And then, I had to go to my date with Yuri, and at that point I was like, this is so dumb.
And then the date is all cutesy and like romantic.
That's what I also thought was so interesting that they did, is because it's like that conversation didn't just happen.
Yeah.
And now you're on a full-on date with this person.
So what's kind of funny, and I don't know, did you end up going through all the other storylines, or did you only play through once?
I just played through once.
So
I didn't have it in me, to be honest.
It was hard to go through it all again.
I watched the variants.
The variants, okay.
Like, someone had a YouTube video that I watched.
Yeah, I was surprised by how much I thought was impacted by the choices I made in the first act and then weren't. When I played through first, like I said, I was Natsuki twice, I was Sayori once, and then I got this heartfelt scene where she liked me, but she's conflicted because I like other people. And so I was like, oh, she feels that way because I've been dating Natsuki and I just started to date her. And then I'm going to this date with Natsuki. And then when I go on my date with Natsuki, it's really romantic and jokey. And at some point, I freaking lick icing off of her finger,
Oh
which
my God,
makes
wait,
me want to
so
vomit.
in the Yuri version, she licks blood off your finger.
Oh, yeah, right?
I was just not into it.
No.
I put in my notes, she licked my finger? Like, no.
Yeah, in the image with Natsuki while you're so Natsuki's date is baking cupcakes because that's what she does. She bakes. And when you have this date, literally in the middle of it, you are play fighting, and the image that they show is you are like pinning this girl up against the wall with your hands, and she looks scared. Like, it doesn't look cute to me. She looks scared. And then I lick the icing off her finger, and I'm like, bruh, why are you licking icing off fingers right now? We are supposed to be concerned about Sayori, who's over there like sad, and you're over here licking icing off a finger after you've pretended that you like Sayori more. And so I thought that was happening because I had more dates with Natsuki, but
it's not that complicated.
But it's not. It's just you went on the date and it's flirty. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yuri's is you're helping her make decorations, and then you find out that she's really into knives.
Yeah,
because she pulls out a knife.
Yeah,
and you accidentally nick your finger with her knife, and then she like licks it all of a sudden out of nowhere, and it's really freaking weird.
So weird.
Okay, so let's keep going because we have so much more to talk about. We've
so
already been chatting for 40 minutes.
Okay, keep going. We got it.
We got to keep going.
Yeah.
It's fine. This can be a longer episode. It's an insane game. It's honestly
weird. Yeah.
So at this point, you have your date. Then what happens is after the date, as the person is leaving, you run into Sayori, and then the other person is like, "Okay, bye, later."
Yeah.
And Sayori sticks around and has like another like heartfelt conversation with you.
And then you have to make a choice.
So essentially she's confessing her feelings for you. And then a choice pops up and it says, tell Sayori you love her, or tell her that you're her dearest friend. Or that you're her dearest friend.
Yeah.
Which one did you pick?
I was on Team Sayori, so I said I loved her.
I also did that.
Yeah.
It's funny because I saw a Reddit thread that was like, anyone who says anything but I love you is a psychopath.
Get bed.
Yeah. You say I love you, and the last thing is like you're giving her a hug, and then you go to bed and you wake up and oh gosh, how do we even say this? Do you want me to do it? I'll do it.
Yeah, please do it.
Okay. So this is hard. This is where it gets really insane.
Yeah. Oh, wait, before you do this, I will say that at this point, I thought the dark twist was the fact that these girls actually have serious emotions, and that's what I thought the twist was. So this next part literally freaked me out. Yeah.
The only tip that I got is that Yuri has this really weird throwaway line where she said that she has a feeling something terrible is going to happen.
Oh, I do remember that.
And actually, before I say what the actual thing happens, I had two theories at this point.
Oh, okay. Yes. Tell us your theories.
So my first theory was that they were going to be witches and I was going to be their sacrifice, which I was kind of like...
That would be cool!
Yeah, because the other thing that Sayori keeps saying is that she feels kind of bad. Don't like me. I feel bad. It makes me feel bad. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, are they planting seeds for... I'm like a sacrifice for them, and they're actually like dark witches.
Well, and she also talked about it being a psychological horror and being into horror genre. So I did think that there was something weird in that realm, but I like the idea of witches. That's a fun idea.
That's a cool one. And then the more serious one, which I think probably is just a reflection of the world that we're in today, super sadly, is I thought maybe at the festival there was going to be a school shooting or something. Oh. So that's the two routes that I thought it was going to take. So I was still really surprised by what happens next.
Gotcha.
So then what happens is you wake up, your character waits for Sayori for a little bit. She doesn't come out, and your character says, okay, she's sleeping in again. I'm just going to go ahead and go to class. And you go to class, and Monica is there, and she says, where's Sayori? And you go, I don't know. She was sleeping in like a dummy. Ha, ha, ha. And
like a dummy. He uses the word like a dummy.
He actually says like a dummy. And she says, oh, okay, well, look at this poem that she wrote. And it says, get out, get my thoughts out of my head, get out. And you're like, fuck. And then your character is like, fuck.
Yeah.
And goes to check on her. And you go back to the house, you walk in, no one's answering, you knock on her door, she doesn't answer, you walk in, and she has committed suicide.
And at that point, Bridget punted her laptop off the couch accidentally.
Yeah. And it's a really intense image. That's what I'll say. Mm-hmm. And I just wrote fuck.
Yeah.
Just fuck.
It was bad. If I never see that image again, I will feel better. It was rough. I really wasn't expecting it. Chris had just walked in where I was playing because he had been playing with friends, and that scene popped up and the creepy music. It's chilling. It's like a broken version of the tune that you hear the whole time. And he walks in and I scream and I threw my laptop, but it survived. So yeah.
So are you a horror person in general? Like, do you watch scary movies at all?
Only when I'm in the mood for them.
Okay.
But I have watched plenty. I'm just not, it's not my favorite genre and I need to be in a mood.
Okay.
Yeah.
I very much can take horror. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm like totally fine with it. My friends think I'm a weirdo because I will laugh during horror movies like a psychopath.
Oh.
So I also wrote fuck LOL.
God damn it.
I'm sorry. It is a very disturbing image, and I totally respect that piece. But at this point, then it became very interesting to me personally because I was like, oh shit, like
at this point I cared. And it was an actually good game after this point. Yeah.
Up until that morning scene, I just didn't think that was going to happen. And then that happens and it's just very intense. And then what happens is a little dialogue box kind of pops up in the upper left-hand corner.
Like a terminal on a computer.
Like a command line.
Yeah, a command line.
Like a command line. And it says character Sayori deleted. Mm-hmm. And so that's when Act 2 starts. And
it gets wild.
I thought it was so good. I just thought that was so well done.
Oh, yeah, it was great. So with Act 2, at this point, the game restarts, but at this point, it restarts with some really weird changes. And so it pretends like it's the same game. You get the same load screen, but instead of, start game or new game or continue game or whatever, it has these weird characters instead. And instead of 4 girls looking cute in anime on the screen, it has 3 and one weird pixelated blob where Sayori used to be. And at this point, I literally couldn't stop at this point.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what the
is happening? Yeah.
And then you jump in and it starts over. The whole game starts over. You don't even have save files anymore. If you had saved before then, the saves are gone. Mm-hmm. And you start to play again, but every time it starts to reference who Sayori was, it bleeps out her name into the weird characters, and then it reverses, and then it gives you a whole new setup. And instead of joining this literature club, you're met with Monica, who Monica brings you to the literature club.
Yeah.
And Sayori's just,
you don't have a neighbor. It says you walk to school alone like you do every day.
Exactly.
Whereas the first time you play it, it says you walk to school with Sayori like you do every day.
Yeah. And so like this whole dialogue gets reversed and changed, and little things are different, but it gets weirder.
Yeah.
It gets so
Can I make
weirder.
One comment that I want to note that I wrote is the music at this point is, for the most part, similar to Act 1, except one note is flat.
Yes. I noticed that it's off.
One note is flat. And I thought that was such a good... Like, I'm getting goosebumps, like, even talking about it, because it's the little things like that that just made it
feel wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
After I learned from Dream Daddy, never mute and play games.
You're welcome.
I suffered through the upbeat, like disgustingly upbeat music for the first act. And then the second act, because it's stuck in your head, I was like, oh, one note is flat. And I thought that was just so good.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was just one, but I noticed that there was a little part that felt off as you listen to it. They do like a lot now. So now that we've transitioned into this Act 2, you relive the same moments, but you relive them with really weird and creepy comments, which I live for. I loved all of them. They were awful and terrible. We should talk through them. But you get like weirder comments. Everything is a little off.
Things glitch.
Yeah, things glitch. Like you press buttons and it zooms in on the page and Monica starts acting really weird.
Each of them starts acting like the worst versions of themselves, I think, actually.
Yeah,
is a good way to put it.
I think the way that I would describe their escalation is Natsuki gets really clingy and really angry and like vicious angry. Yuri gets like stalkery.
Yes.
And obsessive.
Obsessed.
And then Monica gets she gets real jealous and real possessive, I think, is the way that, but in a way that she's still trying to hide it. It's weird. Does that sound right to you? You're laughing, I guess.
Oh, I'm looking at my notes. So there's things that'll happen during the second act as you're replaying them. So in the first act, Natsuki and Yuri have a fight about Yuri's boobs, I think.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It was so funny because that's what I was thinking on the inside. And then they have this whole conversation about her boobs. I'm like, this is a little funny.
And in the first act, Sayori can save you in the conversation, which I don't know if you picked that version.
The first time I actually didn't, but it all works out fine either way, regardless of the three you picked.
Well, so because Sayori's not there to help, you have to choose sides. But when you clicked, did this happen to you?
Yeah.
But when you click one of them, it doesn't work, and then all of a sudden, Monica appears.
Yeah, she's just like there. Her face is there.
Yeah.
So creepy.
It fades in front of the dialogue. I don't know how to describe that.
It's like the closest to the screen. It's like the...
Yeah. Like you clicked bring to front on a PowerPoint. Yeah.
I was like, the Z index is that. It's like a stupid nerd. It's fine.
Yeah. And at this point, I was just going to lean into the crazy that was Yuri.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I did that too.
I made that choice.
Yeah,
okay.
I did.
Because you can either lean into Natsuki or you can lean into Yuri.
So, fun facts. You are forced to lean into Yuri even if you lean into Natsuki.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I tried the second round to only do Natsuki. You get an extra bonus optional scene, which is horrifying with Natsuki, but you still get all the weirdness of what's her face of Yuri. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't. Yeah. I was just like, fine.
I did the same thing the first time too. But yeah.
And there's a weird scene where you're talking to Yuri and she's like, I'm going to go make some tea. And she's gone for a long time. Yeah. And then your character is like, wow, she's gone for a long time. And you go looking for her. And then you find her cutting herself like a lot. Then you see another disturbing picture of her with cuts all over her arms. And what tipped me off to it being something with Monica was her poems.
Oh, see, I thought that it was Monica because she had quotes every once in a while, like during the argument, she pulls you out of the classroom. Yeah, she pulls you out. And she makes weird comments about like, oh, it wasn't supposed to go like that. I don't know. She
does make weird comments, yeah.
She made a lot of weird comments in there that was specifically like, why would you know that? That's weird. Why would you say that? It felt like she was breaking the fourth wall a little too much.
Yep. Yeah, and one of her poems specifically said, delete her. Like, I have to delete her.
Yeah.
And so then you kind of know.
Well, did you notice her earlier poem was Load Me, Save Me? Was what it was. And that was also the instruction to tell you how to load and save before the girls so that you can make different choices. So she was even breaking the fourth wall in the act one, if you like.
Well, I noticed she said, here's a tip.
Yeah.
Okay, that's so interesting. Oh, and then the thing that was making me laugh is in my notes several times I wrote, this is a trip. Like, this is such a trip.
It's a trip.
I ended up really, really enjoying this. And eventually what happens in Act 2 is you get forced into being more into Yuri. And then you have another scene like you did with Sayori where you have a choice where she's like, I love you, I'm obsessed with you. And you can either say, I also love you or I don't love you. What did you pick? It doesn't matter what you pick.
It doesn't matter. I said yes, I think. Because I didn't want her to kill me. I thought she was going to kill me. I literally wrote down which one of these girls is going to kill me because I thought all of them had the opportunity and motivation. I was like, I'm dying.
I put yes because I was just going to lean into... the crazy.
Yeah.
I was at that point, I was like, this is a trip.
I just didn't want to die.
And then what happens is if you press yes, she gets so insanely excited that she stabs herself. And again, it's very graphic.
With her favorite knife.
And kills herself. Then this part actually did really freak me out because it goes to a really graphic picture of her bleeding out, dead, and you cannot get out of it.
No, you have to wait there for
You
days.
have to wait for an in-game whole weekend.
Yep.
So you notice that the sun is getting darker and darker and darker, and then lighter and lighter and lighter, and her eyes start graying. It's like very...
And the whole time, like one of the things that the game does in the second half is it has weird random quips that are evil-ish, snarky sounding that come through in like distorted black text. And it'll be the really harsh stuff that comes out that way. So while you're sitting here looking at Yuri's body, it's just unlimited, distorted, alien-looking black text you can't read over and over and over and over again. It's horrifying. It really is unsettling.
It's very unsettling, and you just have to wait it out. I tried going into the file. I thought it was like purposefully broken and you might have to do something. So I went to the main menu and I tried starting a new game, but that doesn't work. It just pops you back to that. And then it wasn't until a whole weekend passes and then what happens is Monica shows up.
It's Natsuki first because she vomits
that's right.
and then runs away.
Natsuki shows up and she goes, "Oh, hey, like you're here already? Oh, no." And then she vomits because she sees the dead Yuri
that you've just been chilling with
that you've just been sitting with her for the weekend. And then Monica walks in and says a comment that's something...
The script is broken. Were you stuck here for 3 days?
Yeah. That's Act 2.
That's the end of Act 2. I think the one thing that I want to mention as we branch into Act 3 is we've talked a lot about the weirdness of who they were, but the next Act 3 is going to lend us to learn a little bit more about Monica. And so I wanted to talk about a few hints that they had in Act 2 about Monica really fast. So the first one is we talked about how during the poetry writing, you only get 3 of the girls in Act 1. You never get Monica as an option. And then in Act 2, when you're writing poetry again, because you still have to write the poetry. If you click different words, you see at the very bottom of your screen, Monica's chibi popping up. And so she's down below the screen, but she's starting to hop a little bit when you pick stuff. And you're like, okay, that's a little interesting, a little weird. And then on top of that, when Monica starts to have some of these conversations, you can see her trying to interject when you're flirting with Yuri or being with Yuri about like, oh, do you really want to go with her? I'll go with you. I loved the way that they showed her kind of her she really becomes psycho in Act 2 because she'll be super peppy character and she's talking about Yuri and she's like, yeah, Yuri has a favorite knife and sometimes when she gets really excited she cuts herself. Isn't that kind of messed up? And then she'll like pose and like a cute little thing. And so you're seeing her crack just like the rest of the girls into Act 3. So one of the pieces that we missed.
Oh, one more thing.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So then the other thing is when you're trying to pick who to help.
Yes, that's what I was going to say we missed. Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly. Like when we pick who we help, when we have to again pick between the 3 girls that are left. And
were you trying to pick someone else?
The mouse forces you to pick Monica.
Okay, but did you successfully click on someone that wasn't Monica?
I tried to do the thing where you whip the mouse above it and then it'll highlight on the way down and it told me Monica anyway, even though I clicked on Yuri.
So I clicked Yuri.
Oh.
But then it went to a screen. Did you get this at all?
No. What? Tell me. Tell me. I didn't do this one.
This is fun. So I successfully did that because I was like, no, I'm not picking fucking Monica.
But I got Monica anyway,
And I ended up successfully picked Yuri. And then what happens is the screen goes white except for eyes.
Oh, that's so creepy. Is it like the weird human eyes that they try to put?
Yeah.
Once in a while? Oh.
It's like the human eyes and they're just staring at you. And it doesn't have any nose or mouth. It's just the eyes in a white screen. And then you click again and then that's when it says just Monica.
And then you have to say, okay.
And it says it like 5 times. It says like just Monica, just Monica, just Monica, just Monica, just Monica.
I didn't get that. That's so good.
I'll go into it once we finish talking about the game because I got really obsessed with figuring out there's so many different things that you can run into in this game based on like little things that happen or choices that you make. Okay, so there's Act 2 and you know at this point
we're talking about Monica.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell us about Act 3?
Yeah. Ready? The next thing that happens is the screen is black. And you get the similar script where it says Yuri and Natsuki deleted.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're in a house that is in space.
I don't think it was a house. I think it was the classroom from a
Oh, the
different angle.
classroom. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
In space. You're just in a place
space.
with space.
Yeah.
In space, because you can see out the windows, and out the windows is kind of this like galaxy thing, which I thought was kind of cool.
And everything's like red and orange and like, yeah.
And
very
then right in the
world.
center is Monica.
Just Monica.
Just Monica.
She's so creepy looking at you.
And she's staring at you. And she like completely breaks the fourth wall, and she talks about how she's a character and she knows she's a character, and she didn't understand why you didn't go for her. Gosh, what else? It's essentially you're having this conversation with her.
Yeah, she talks a lot about how she doesn't like that her friends don't really know the fact that they aren't real and they're scripted to fall for you, and how she was upset that it seemed like no matter what happened and no matter what she changed, I was always going to end up with one of the other girls, and I was never going to end up with Monica because it just wasn't in the game. And so she was trying to like take control of her destiny and make sure that she was an option. Pretty much. Yeah.
And then she also drops like a little hint at some point where she's like, it was really actually easy to get rid of them. If you look in the files, it's under characters and you can just delete them.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. So that moment.
Did you run into that? She was like, oh, Maddie, or do you go by, and then it says your Steam name.
Oh, no, she didn't tell that to me. I wonder if I need a public profile or something for that to happen.
Well, it maybe you had a version, I don't know, but I thought it was funny.
I must have had an older version too, because I paid for my version from forever ago. But yeah, I didn't get that name. I did notice my name was in the credits later, which is really fun.
Yes.
But the actual dialogue that we get from her at that point, I fell in love with it. I loved that she was talking through how she deleted these character files, and right away I was like, you delete these files, I'm gonna delete the files. I had no hesitation.
You did it? Oh, you probably didn't even get to the line then yet. Oh, because I chilled there for a bit just to see where it was going.
Oh,
even after she dropped that line, I kind of chilled there. So the other thing that I tried is I quit the game and I reopened it.
Oh.
And she made a comment about, she was like, don't ever do that again. That feels like I'm dying. And,
so good. I love that so much.
And then the other thing is when she starts saying something, I tried to skip.
Oh.
I tried to use the skip button. So things in dating sims is if you want to skip over some dialogue, there's usually normally like a fast forward button, and then you can go through like a sped through version.
Yeah.
And you try clicking that, and she's like, you're not trying to fast forward me, are you? Are you not interested by what I'm saying? How dare you?
I love this journey you went on, because I didn't do any of this. She said, I delete these characters, and I'm like, I'm deleting her. I had no hesitation. I was like, she's gone.
Yeah. It was fun to just hang out there for a bit, and as this is going on, the more and more she talks, it's like slowly like zooming closer and closer on her face.
That. I did slightly notice that, but I don't think I ever got to a creepy level because I did go pretty fast.
Yeah. And then that's when I decided to dig into the game files, because then you figure out, okay, to progress, I knew that I had to delete her file at some point, but I wanted to see what was happening before.
Yeah.
And then I went into the game files and deleted her.
Yeah, I was so in love with that mechanic. I don't know if you ever played Pony Island or other games where they do this third wall breaking.
No.
It's really good, and
I want to, though. Pony Island's on my list.
Yeah, it was giving me some serious Pony Island vibes, and I absolutely loved the fact that you actually had to go into the game files that you had and delete them. And I know in my computer science brain and game dev, I know that those weren't their real character files and they were just a folder for you to delete, but it was everything, and I loved it.
Yeah, it was really well done. Super, super well done. Do you want to talk about what happens after you delete her character file?
Yeah, so delete the character file, and at this point you go back into the game, and I'm only on one screen, so I hear something happening in the background and I go back, and she's starting to get like distorted again. She looks a lot like the image of what the other girls looked like after you deleted them, all pixely and morphed away. And she starts panicking like, oh my god, did you delete me? What have you done? I did all this stuff. And then she has this come to Jesus moment, for lack of a better term. I'm going to restore all the other girls. And she can't restore herself for some reason, but because I deleted her.
Yeah.
But she never actually deleted the files of the girls. She had just put them in a different place. And so she kindly restores the other 3 files.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start again.
Mm-hmm.
You start again. And I will say, before we get into what happens here, I actually stopped here and I didn't keep playing yet because it was really late and I thought there was going to be a whole nother like huge part.
Oh.
And I was actually a little disappointed there wasn't, because once you restart the game at this point with 3, it's a similar kind of feeling of everything's a little different.
And Sayori's the president now of the club.
But it's the same premise of
Yuri is the vice president. Yeah.
You are a lot nicer in this version. You actually willingly go and join the club instead of saying mean things.
Yeah.
And you show up and you're really nice. But then it turns out that the president of the club has some special powers, it seems like. And the reason that Monica went crazy, I think, is because she was the president and she knew all this stuff. And so when you eventually get into this final act of replaying this game and going and rejoining the literature club, you sit and talk with Sayori at the very end, and she's like, well, I knew you were going to join the club because I know everything now.
And she's like, thank you for what you did to Monica.
And then it just deletes.
Yeah. And then Monica goes like, never mind, I changed my mind. I can't do it.
Yeah. And then it deletes. Everything deletes.
And then everything deletes. Well, because Monica is even like, I can't watch this, or I can't do this.
Yeah.
And the screen goes black. Is this where the song starts happening? Or am I missing something?
So Monica has been practicing the piano throughout this game.
Yeah, that's the song. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she decides at this point to perform a piano song for you and sing along with it. So this whole time we haven't had voice acting, and we finally get a voice acting, and Monica, this like really childlike, light, girly voice, starts breaking through the computer's static of this game that's everything's been deleted, and she starts singing the literature club song. And then as she sings it, these like the lyrics pop up on the screen, and then it rolls into credits, and as it continues to sing, all of the images that you saw throughout the game start to delete.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then as the song continues and the images delete at the very end, it's like script deleted, you must reinstall to play again. And then the game's over.
And then the game's over. And it's like special thanks to Monica and your name, Maddie, or
and
Bridget, or whatever.
I'm assuming you played through but watched at least the second ending.
The second ending.
So there's I forget, they called it
Is it the one where they don't delete?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very similar. They just don't delete.
It's very similar. Yeah, there's a way that you can get a different ending if you want the quote-unquote good one. And if you date all 3 girls before the end of Act 1, which I did go through to do, you, at the very end, get a cutscene where Sayori, instead of being like, thanks for deleting Monica, she's like, all I wanted is for my friends to be happy, and you really helped them be happy. Thank you so much. And then during the song and the credits roll, none of the images delete.
Yeah.
And then you get a special thank you note from the creators of the game, which is really fun.
Yeah, I read that. I read that note.
But that's it. That's the end.
That's the end.
Yeah. It was really good.
It was so good. I ended up really, really... It's so funny how much of a turn this game takes, where now, like, I understand why
the first part was the way that it was. And
and why everyone loves it. So I do want to talk a little bit about the random creepy stuff that can happen. I got a little bit obsessed because I thought it was so cool and so well done.
I'm ready to hear about it because I didn't do any of that.
I was just very impressed by what ended up happening in the game. I was literally so bored out of my mind I was going to quit the game.
Yeah.
And then for it to go a completely different direction, I just thought it was so good. So I started digging into it, and there's a bunch of things that happen in Act 2 where things are creepy. It's like actually randomized, whether you get certain things. Yeah. One thing that I got that was random was I got a second Yuri cutting herself. Did you get that?
I don't think I did.
So that happened twice, and then Yuri is like, I'm getting deja vu, and then it glitches back into the... So that happened for me twice, and that's a small chance of happening.
Yeah.
And then at some point, there's one where Natsuki's face becomes realistic and starts, like, mouthing things.
Oh, that's creepy.
I got that one too.
Oh, the one that I got in Natsuki was I got her eyes getting all blown out in black.
Oh, see, I didn't get that one. That's another random one.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's all these really weird, creepy things that can happen in Act 2 that are completely randomized.
Know that was random. Since so much of it felt scripted and like you had to hit certain options, I just assumed they were all scripted. That's so cool.
No, it's really cool. I just got very into it. So there's a whole wiki with all of the, or wiki.
It's like, do you pronounce a wiki?
My coworkers made fun of me for saying that. Wait, no, we've done this with the.
I think I was the one who made fun of you. I think I am your coworker that made fun of you.
Anyways, we're moving past it. Yeah, so there's a wiki with all of the different Easter eggs and how often they can happen. And I watched a video that had all of them.
All the different ones.
Because now I was like, okay, I gotta see them all.
I didn't even think of that. That's so cool. I love that.
So there's a YouTube video. And I read the note where the creators just, thank you so much for playing this game. And I spent a lot of time on it and blah, blah, blah. And
he had one interesting part of the note that he left. The note itself talked about how he really liked that video games as a medium could do so much more because they were interactive, and he really liked the opportunity that something like an interactive visual novel gave to the creator to do something more than what you would expect. And I really loved seeing that little line and him talk about that, because that's what he did. He took something that was a really typical, like, okay, I'm doing an anime girl dating sim that's kind of boring, great, and made it such an interactive experience. And he did an awesome job at, I think, both building up the fact that, like, this is a boring average game, ha ha ha, and then really flipping it over and making it interesting and interactive in such a very, very cool way. And then if you actually replay the first half after playing it, there's a lot of more seeds in the first half too. And I actually really liked the first half a lot more.
Once you know what's happening.
Yes, because there are a lot of little things and I'm like, wow, that was really well done.
I pulled up the note. Do you want me to read a little bit of it? Because I do think it's really cute.
I really liked it, yeah.
So this is the note that if you do all of the things kind of a completionist style, you get a thank you note from Dan Salvato, the creator. For years, I've been enamored by the ability of visual novels and games in general to tell stories in ways not possible using traditional media. Doki Doki Literature Club is my love letter to that. Games are an interactive art. Some let you explore new worlds, some challenge your mind in brand new ways, some make you feel like a hero or a friend, even when life is hard on you. Some games are just plain fun, and that's okay too. Everyone likes different kinds of games. Sorry, his handwriting's pretty bad. People who enjoy dating sims may have a heightened empathy for fictional characters, or they might be experiencing feelings that life has not been kind enough to offer them. If they are enjoying themselves, then that's all that matters. And that goes for shooting games, casual games, sandbox games, anything. Preferences are preferences, and our differences are the reason we have a thriving video game industry.
I know, it's so cute.
And then he says, thank you for being part of my literature club. There's a little bit more, but it's just a really sweet note.
It's a very sweet note. I think that might be a nice place to end it.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I think so too. Okay, so.
Recommendations.
Yeah. Absolutely would recommend it. To be fair though, caveat of you do have to be okay with disturbing content.
Yes. Yeah. I 100% would also recommend. The content warnings are very real. And I would say people that are easily disturbed, like, really actually think about whether or not this is something that will help or hurt your mental health before you jump in and engage. I would 100% recommend it. And would say that if you're feeling kind of what we felt around the slow pace of the beginning of the game, to stick it out. To definitely stick it out.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you've gotten to this point, you know.
Please stick it out.
Yeah.
And with that, I would like to give my Just Monica's rating.
Yeah. How many Just Monicas?
I'm giving it, I waffled between 4 and 5, and I think I've decided 5 after this conversation. 5 Just Monicas. I loved the uniqueness of it. 5 out of 5 Just Monicas.
I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 Just Monicas as well.
Yeah. There's only so many video games that I think make you feel what this game felt.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm so glad that we played it.
Me too. It was good. Good pick.
Yay. Okay. Now on to our off-topic section.
Off topic. What? Oh, yeah. We're doing Game Awards today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Game Awards.
So we are obviously recording this a few weeks differently than when you guys actually get this content released to you. So the Game Awards was this week. Did you watch it, Maddie?
I watched it in the background a little bit because I did the thing where I watched it on Steam to try to get a Steam Deck.
Chris was doing that, yeah. He's like, I'm going to get you a Steam Deck. I did not get one.
We didn't win one either. DK and I both were doing it on our respective laptops while watching Bob's Burgers.
Oh, yeah, Bob's Burgers.
But I checked in a couple times when I saw something on the screen that I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
The main one being...
Oh, which one, Maddie? Surprise me.
Surprise! Hades 2 was announced. And for those listening, if you don't know me, which you probably do, TBH, we have not grown the following that much yet. Hades is one of my favorite games of all time. And they announced Hades 2 during the Game Awards and played a trailer. And I'm very, very, very excited.
It looks really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one, too.
Yep.
I think this is, too, the very first sequel that this game studio has planned, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, and because there are other games, I haven't played their other games, but I know Chris has, and I've watched him play quite a few of them. He loves them, and he was really excited the fact that it was the first sequel, and I'm glad that this is the game that got the first sequel. It was really, really good.
I periodically check Supergiant's Games career page.
Do you?
Yes.
Don't leave me, Manny.
No, I'm not. But... Maybe.
Hades 3? Is it
I'm very obsessed with that studio and that game. It's like literally my top 5 favorite games of all time. So
yeah, very good. The other one that I was really excited about, and I actually looked it up just so that I can make sure I had the right info for this, but the new game from the BioShock studio, the creators of BioShock, I'm super excited for.
Yeah.
And it looks like it is actually a lead female character game, which I'm really excited
cool.
about. Yeah. And it's the same thriller FPS with,
Is it in the same world?
No, I don't believe so. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's in space. It was like a damaged starship or something. Yes, yeah. And so I don't think it's actually the same universe, but it's visually, it definitely like visually felt like a spiritual successor to it. And BioShock is an absolute phenomena of a game.
Yeah.
Everything about it was immensely
I do really
perfect.
love those games. Yeah.
And so I'm really, really excited for that one too. Yeah, but overall, I would say a good Game Awards. Yeah. I think
Elden Ring won, which I just started playing.
Yeah. Oh, you did? You decided to start playing it.
Yeah.
How do you? Well, we can talk about that more, but I still haven't. I don't know.
Has Chris played it?
He just also downloaded it because of the Game Awards. He was like, it finally won, so I'm gonna get it. And I had tried to play the Souls games, and I still can't beat the tutorial for Dark Souls 3. So I decided
it's
not.
more. I will say, and I know that people have said this, it's more approachable than the Dark Souls games.
Okay.
Like, I've made it a decent chunk. When you die, you don't lose your health bar.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a little bit kinder, for sure. I just started playing it, and I have not played God of War, so a lot of it was not for me.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, one thing that I did want to mention, sorry. Did you check in during the orchestra playing?
I saw parts of the orchestra playing for the ones that were announced as like nominees. Yes.
Yeah.
But I didn't get all of them.
Oh, okay. So I play cello and I'm a fan of classical music. And so when they started doing the orchestra part, where before they announced the winner, they had a montage of the game music for all of the nominees. And there was the flautist, I guess? Flutist? Flutist?
Yeah.
Whatever. He was having the time of his life. It was amazing. Go back and watch it. I'm sure someone has made a YouTube video, but he was just rocking it. And I loved it.
I have to go look now.
He literally was like having so much fun, and it was so infectious. They zoomed in on him multiple times because he was having so much fun.
I love that.
And it was also hilarious because every time they cut to him, it was like he was playing a different flute.
Really?
Like he had all these different flutes.
Like
it was amazing.
Size of flutes or of flute?
Like different kinds of flutes, just different like he was playing this one.
Yeah, like a little piccolo.
Cut back.
And
no, he's playing this one. Oh no, he's playing this one.
That's amazing.
And then at the very end, my other favorite thing is they all stand up and he's like, yeah, yeah. And then he starts doing a chabra,
Yeah, like the wine. Yeah.
Anyway, that was my favorite part of the Game Awards.
I love it.
Was
I love
that
it so
moment,
much.
and everyone listening to this, go look it up and watch it because it was just phenomenal. It made me really happy because I love when people get into classical music like that, because typically it's not a genre that gets that kind of love.
Enthusiasm.
And I love when it does get that kind of love.
I'm gonna have to go watch it now. I did not see that. I saw like pieces of it.
I'm gonna watch it with you after this because I'm so excited about it.
I'm gonna make sure you don't leave this studio until you watch this.
Yeah. Okay.
Amazing.
Great way to end it.
Yeah. Thank y'all for listening to our podcast. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe and rate it. And thank you so much to the folks that have already rated it. We love to see it. It's so fun. And yeah, hopefully at the end of the day, the algorithm gods will end up in our favor. So pray for us. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Baddy Breakdowns. And you can visit our new website, baddybreakdowns.com, made by me, Bridget Keene. The podcast was done by our lovely Tanisha Vernicar, and the podcast was edited by Maddie Wisnot. Join us next time to hear us two baddies break down Cthulhu Saves Christmas.
Hi, this is Maddie from the future, editing Maddie. Just a quick reminder that the next game that we're playing is High on Life because we switched the order of Cthulhu Saves Christmas and Doki Doki. So the next one is High on Life. Okay, bye.
Yeah,
right.
And thank y'all. I'll see you next week.
Yeah, bye.
Every day I imagine a future where I can be with you. In my hand is a pen that will write a poem of me and you. The ink flows down into a dark puddle. Just move your hand right the way into his heart. But in this world of infinite choices, what will it take just to find that special day? What will it take just to find that special day?